in certain Moorish cultures, this is what Moors have to understand. That's why I keep trying to tell Moors, you got to get into studying that Bible. Noble Drew Ali didn't tell you to keep it for nothing. You have to see that there's no European culture in there probably until you get into the New Testament. When you're actually reading the Old Testament of the scriptures, what you're getting is Moorish culture. And in certain Moorish cultures, what happens is when a man was so well off, he would have his wife, and his wife would have what was called life assistants, what we would say modernly, or maid servants, and she couldn't bear children for him, but she wanted heirs to give to her husband. Then she would give her maid servant to her husband in order for him to bear seed through her, but the seed would be considered her children. It would be considered building up her house. Another example of that is with Abraham and Ishmael. What happened? Abraham's wife, Sarah, couldn't bear seed, so she was like, I'm going to give you my maid servant, Hagar, which is Hagar is spoke about what? In the Circle 7. Y'all gonna make me read all these books. Don't play. That's what I'm saying. Don't make me play, because I'm in the mood today. Hagar is talked about in the Circle 7 Quran. It's just as simple as that. So that was showing you that's Moorish culture. She didn't make it there on accident. Hagar's not talked about in the Circle 7 Quran an accident. She has a genealogy that goes back to the Torah. You see what I'm saying? So, okay. Now here, it goes on to say, just as the tent panels are added to continue the tent, sons are born to the family to continue the family line. Just as the tent is continually being renewed with new panels, the family is continually being renewed with new sons. Now, I'm going to get into it. In Moorish culture, a son is symbolic to building. In Moorish culture, we've always known that. In Moorish culture, the more sons you have are considered the more stones you have added on to your house, your family line. So the more sons you have are the more stones you have on to your house. That's why when you go to ancient Moorish culture, it was a pride and an honor to have as many sons as possible, because in ancient Moorish culture, the birthright would pass on through that firstborn son. You know, I know a lot of times they like to say we were matriarchy in certain forms of Moorish culture, but that's not all Moorish culture. And that's not something that was introduced to us by the European later on down the line, despite popular belief. We did have patriarchal Moorish systems. We did have matriarchal Moorish systems. It's just as simple as that. And the Moabites, from what I can see, despite what popular things say, the Moabites were a patriarchal nation, period. Because if they were not, they would not be called Moabites, which is after Moab. Moab would not pass on birthright to his firstborn son and thereafter. You see what I'm saying? Because they all had the same culture to a certain extent, even though certain things were different a little bit. But the sons being stones added on to the house, because another word for a family, or the proper word in Moorish terms, or how we would say house, and I don't even want to say that in English, because a house is a place where servants are at. So I would say bait. I would have to use the actual Moorish word. I would have to say bait. I have to, just to keep us on de jour. But yeah, so let's go on. So again, so we can see, starting off, we see that a son here in the lexicon is to build. Then it goes on to say tent panel. Then it goes on to say intelligence, ben, right? Then it goes on down here to say tent panel. Tent panel, again, there are many similarities between building a tent out of goat hair panels and the building of a house out of sons. The idea of building a house with sons can be seen in Genesis 30, verse 3, and we've already went over that. It says, just as tent panels are added to continue the tent, sons are born to the panel to continue the family line, just as the tent is continually being renewed with new panels. The family is continually being renewed with new sons. So the more sons, the larger the house, because a son is considered building is considered a stone. I'm going to show you. We're going to get into that, why the son is considered a stone. So we're dealing with the word ben. Don't forget, we are dealing with Moorish Hebrew etymology, Moorish Canaanite etymology right now. Okay, then it goes on. See, it never even said the word son yet. Then it goes on to the third definition of the word ben. It says son, one who continues the family line. Hebrew and Aramaic transforms to bar when used in the possessive. Then it goes on to say in the King James, the word ben has been translated to son, children, old, first man, young, stranger, people. Then it goes on to the word, you have bent or you have banath. It says daughter. You see, so they're using the same word and they're adding a suffix on at the end to let you know that it's the female. So for instance, in Spanish, you have muchacho for a boy, and then you have muchacha for a girl. In Hebrew, you have ben and you have bent, B-N-T, bent, or it's banath, depending on the dialect. So banath, you go from ben for son to banath or bent for daughter. It says which daughter is also a village that resides outside of the city walls as the daughter of the city. So do you see here how our cities manifested, brothers and sisters? Building. What is masonry about? Building up imperfected man and making him better, right? What is the son about in Moorish culture? Ben. Building. What is the daughter? A village that resides outside of the city walls as the daughter of the city, or the daughter city, right? You ever heard the term sister city, daughter city, motherland, fatherland? Like that's all Moorish. Those are all Moorish. Culturally, those were those terms come from us. So again, it says daughter, also a village, somewhere that has to be built, that resides outside of the city walls that have to be built as the daughter of the city. Then it goes on to says bat, daughter. Then it goes on to say teben, straw. Okay, so teben, there goes that etymology with that Moorish Hebrew. So the word ben has been made a suffix. So teben is straw, or taban, or thaban, theben, depending on the dialect. And I know I got some Hebrew Israelite brothers that watch this. Shalom to y'all. So I want to make sure that I'm hitting everybody. So straw for teben is used for what? It says here, when more permanent structures, there you go, building again, were built, they were constructed of stones and bricks made of clay and straw, replacing the tent panels as the main component of construction, building up for dwellings. So again, I ask you, what is masonry? Masonry is a building. All they did was took the principles for building quality buildings and temples and things like that, and they applied it to spiritual teachings to build up imperfect man, to make him perfect, or to make him a good man better. That's what it is. So your whole culture, Moorish culture, is based off of building, because masonry is what, at the end of the day, based off of building, period. So again, they took the codified rules of building quality temples and buildings for dwelling and worshiping and things of this nature, and they transferred that over into building up the temple of man. That's what masonry is, building up the temple of man. So for all you spooky dooky people out there who do no study and just sit on YouTube all day and watch all these videos where these dudes hit you with this stuff about Freemasonry and devil worshiping, they're tricking you away from your own culture. Period. I appreciate it. I got 4 likes out there. Thank y'all for those likes out there. They're tricking you. It's just as simple as that. They are tricking you. So you have to pay attention. You have to be studied enough and discerned enough to know to take away the good stuff and throw away the stuff that's no good for you. It's just as simple as that. So let's go on here. Then we have matben. Straw. Again, when more permanent structures were built, they were constructed of stones and bricks made of clay and straw, replacing the tent panels as the main Okay, so we already read that. Then here we have benin. Okay, we have benin, or sometimes y'all ever heard of Benin?